All right, everyone. So I want to talk to you guys about this whole thing with Biden dropping out from the race. I was actually kind of surprised that this happened because I was expecting Biden to just run the race and lose against Donald Trump. But that's not going to happen, I guess, because Donald Trump was really just dominating the meta universe of politics, and Biden was looking more and more foolish. He's an old man. He's doddering all the time. He looks like your grandfather. And then he says some crazy stuff like, I'm going to go come over there in the overflow room. Yes, he actually did say this, and that made a whole bunch of memes on Twitter. It's all very, very funny, but the donors apparently didn't think that it was funny enough to keep supporting Biden. So the donors said, listen, Biden, you're looking very, very foolish. You are embarrassing the Democrat Party. We want you out. No more shekels. And so Biden had to drop off from the race because at the end of the day, politics is really just a proxy war between the wealthy. You have rich people who have their own agendas. And so they see particular candidates as being reflective of their agendas. And so they financially back their candidates. That's how politics work. That's how the whole thing works, really. It's not just the will of the people, but it's also the will of people who are a lot wealthier than we are. And so Biden is not going to be running. And then you have the whole argument that is running very popular on the internet that says, well, if Biden is not capable of running again, how in the hell is he capable of still being the president? He is obviously not a capable leader if he cannot run for a leadership position, and that is a legitimate point. And now everyone is talking about Kamala Harris. Is Kamala Harris going to win? What's her chances of winning, etc., etc.? Well, from what I have seen, Kamala Harris is not as popular as Donald Trump, or in some cases, she is really at the same level of Biden when put up against Donald Trump, which also means that she is really overall not as popular as Donald Trump. Although one thing that I do find quite annoying is how a lot of media outlets will talk about how, well, in some polls, Kamala Harris is actually doing better than Donald Trump, because here is this poll that was taken before the failed assassination attempt on the former president. Because the failed assassination attempt is extremely vital when you are factoring in the popularity of Donald Trump, because the assassination attempt boosted up his popularity, or it just made the energy around Donald Trump even more and more intense. And you really saw it in the RNC when everyone was looking up at Donald Trump when he was talking, and they were all googly-eyed and glossy-eyed. And there was Donald Trump in the midst of his thick cult of personality, and you could literally feel the cult of personality from the damn television screen. That's how intense it was. But of course, they're going to show us some poll that was taken before the failed assassination attempt. I don't really want to look at that poll because the failed assassination attempt factors in pretty importantly when talking about this whole situation. But you have people talking about, is Kamala Harris actually going to run? Are the delegates going to choose Kamala Harris? Who really knows? Who really knows? But you have a lot of people saying that most likely it is going to be Kamala Harris. And if so, it's going to be so hilarious if Donald Trump and Kamala Harris actually debate against each other. I will be putting in the popcorn in the microwave for that one, because it would be absolutely hilarious. Because let's be real here. Donald Trump got shot. Kamala Harris has never been shot. And then you have a video of Kamala Harris talking about how, well, I've never really been to Europe because she was supposed to go to the border because Biden put the whole situation of the border on her hands, apparently, or Biden supposedly commissioned her to be in charge of the border, supposedly, right? That's what they're telling us. And Kamala did this interview saying, yeah, the border, because the guy said, well, why aren't you going to the border? And she said, well, we're going to go to the border. Listen, I've never been to Europe, blah, blah, blah. And it just, the whole thing looked quite embarrassing and silly. And you have Donald, and here's the thing, the border and immigration is one of the most popular subject matters when it comes to political discourse in American society. So you really, really have to be fixated on the border and immigration when you are running for the presidency in this country. Like I said, immigration, one of the most hot button issues in the country, with the majority of Americans being very much so in favor of tighter border security. And Donald Trump is a big border guy. His whole issue has been the border. His biggest talking point has been the border and immigration. Could you imagine a debate between Harris and Trump? And Trump's going to be talking about how, listen, I'm the one who got shot. You didn't get shot. I got shot. I got shot for my country. You did not. What have you sacrificed? You can't even defend the border. You didn't defend the border. Tens of millions of people from third world countries, from crazy houses, from prisons, from jails, from hospitals. They're rushing into this country, and they are the barbarians. They're just like the barbarians who ravished and destroyed Rome, and you have let them into our country to destroy our great and amazing country. And Harris is not very likable. I don't think she's a very good speaker. I don't think she's very good at oratory. She has a very annoying hyena-like laugh. And here's the thing. Harris looks like she would be very, very, very good as a middle school vice principal in the inner cities. I mean, that's where she fits. She has the look. She has the look. Believe me, when I was in middle school, we had a principal, and she looked kind of like, I mean, not entirely like Kamala Harris, but I mean, similar, right? Similar in some ways. And she was a very good principal, somewhat. She was very Democrat, but a very good principal. Very good principal for a middle school, public middle school. And that's where Kamala Harris really belongs. She belongs in an inner city middle school as principal or vice principal, and she would be just perfect in such a position. But the idea of her running for president, in my opinion, I just don't see her winning the presidency. I could be wrong. And listen, if I am wrong about this, I will never, ever again make a political prediction. If she wins after the assassination attempt, I am just going to wave my hands off. I'm just going to drop the whole issue of making political predictions. I'm just going to do it. I'll just throw my hands in the air and say, that's it. I don't know shit about this country. I really don't know shit, because if you look at Twitter, you see a hell of a lot of hatred against Kamala Harris. You find a couple of comments that are pro Kamala Harris, but you find tons and tons of comments against Kamala Harris. And so the way I look at it is, it seems like the internet really hates her. So I don't think that she's a very likely candidate to win the presidency. But if I'm wrong, I'm just going to say, you know what? To hell with the internet. I'm not going to use the internet as a gauge. Hell, I'm not even going to make political predictions anymore. I'm just going to talk about history, theology, and current events. And that's it. I'm just going to throw my hands in the air if that happens. If Trump loses after the failed assassination attempt on his life, I'm just going to throw my hands in the air and say, I don't know shit about politics. I'm just dropping the issue. That's it. I'm just going to drop the issue of making political predictions. But for now, I'm just going to say it. I don't see Kamala Harris winning the presidency. That's if she actually gets chosen by the delegates to be the Democrat nominee. And people are saying that more than likely she's going to be the nominee. So if she is, it'll be very entertaining. Very entertaining. If she wins, you're going to have a whole lot of people saying there's no way that this election was not stolen because Donald Trump was so popular and Kamala Harris was so unpopular. And there's going to be a huge uproar in this country. And one thing that really terrifies me is the prospect for a civil war in this country, which I do see as a likelihood. I'm very sad to say this, but I'm a little bit of a doomer. I'm a little bit of a pessimist. I'm not a super positive person. So I just see negativity, right? I see a lot of not all negativity, all right? But I do see a lot of negativity, and I don't really see a whole lot of light at the end of the tunnel, because I read a lot of history, and one thing about history is that it's full of destruction and chaos, murder and evil. And one thing that you see in history is that empires do not last forever, and they will eventually crumble from within. And America is the Roman Empire of our time, and nothing lasts forever. And as the guy in Scarface said, every dog has its day. And I do see the American empire eventually declining. That's what I see. And I do see this country eventually having a major rift within that could lead to pockets of pretty horrendous violence. And the political rifts and the political polarization and the political division within this country, it's just not going to get any better. It's not going to get any better. It's not going to heal. There's a lot of people talking about helping this country heal. I don't see any healing in the future. I do see a lot more polarization. I do see a lot of people drifting further apart from each other. And like I've said, something has to give. Something has to give. But if Harris wins, or if a Democrat wins, there's going to be a huge uproar. There's going to be a lot of talk about a stolen election. And the prospect for violence will definitely be there. Definitely be there. And that's one thing that really terrifies me. Out of all the things that really terrify me about this country, it's the prospect for civil war. It's not Social Security. It's not immigration. It's not taxes. It's not fentanyl addiction. I mean, fentanyl addiction, you have the choice not to take fentanyl. Who's making you take fentanyl? But the opioid crisis, those are not my biggest concerns. My biggest concern is the potential for civil war. Second biggest concern is the potential for nuclear war. Those are absolutely horrifying. And the idea of a civil war in this country it's nightmare fuel, because we are the most armed population in history. We are the most armed population in the world. And so you have the political division, you have all the hatred, all the contention. Then on top of that, you got hundreds of millions of firearms just floating around everywhere here. And all you got to do is throw in a little match of provocation and incitement into this whole room of political gasoline, and bam, you got yourself a big problem, and America could become a giant Syria. That horrifies me. This whole election thing, okay, Harris, it's all really funny. You have all the funny memes on Twitter. Harris has a hyena laugh. It's all fun and games, but let's just keep it fun and games. Let's just keep it as memes and jokes and debates and propaganda and rhetoric, and let's just limit the whole discourse to that, because what I don't want to see is the whole thing being escalated into something violent. That would be atrocious. And you have these people talking so nonchalantly about civil war. Oh, civil war, yeah, that's what we need. I was listening to Michael Savage today. God bless him. I like Michael Savage. My father has been on his show several times. I've listened to Michael Savage since I was in middle school, but I was listening to him today, and he said the only solution is civil war. And I'm thinking, Michael, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? I love your cooking videos. You got really funny cooking videos and really great commentary. I think you're very good at oratory. But this idea that the only solution, or the only solution is civil war, I think is just insane. I mean, if you have a civil war, what happens if you have a civil war and the violence is right within the state of California, right in the Bay Area? Michael, you're not going to be able to enjoy your wine and pasta in the middle of a civil war. The idea of just talking nonchalantly about civil war, I think, is just it's not really fitting for the discourse. It's not something that we should be taking lightly or making little of. Because if you have a civil war, you have millions of people dead. I mean, you're complaining about, and I'm not just talking about Michael Savage, but people in general, you guys are complaining about immigration, and you guys are talking about whatever problems you guys have. I can guarantee you that the immigration problem right now is nothing in comparison to what a civil war would be. A civil war would literally be millions of Americans dead from being killed in war, killed in massacres, killed by stray bullets, killed by, bombs, artillery fire, RPGs, killed by drones. Yes, I could totally see the government using drones within the country. And then you would have the water filtration systems not working because they got damaged in war. And then the water would be poisoned, and then people would be dying from disease, and then hospitals would be cut off from electricity because, the electrical plant got hit by some artillery strike. So the hospital's not working, patients are dying. I mean, it's just, guys. You know what, Americans, I don't know what's wrong with you people. There's a video of Kamala Harris talking about Ukraine, and you can tell she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. Right? I mean, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She's like, Ukraine is a country. Sounds like those Americans that get asked in those random interviews on the street. Hey, could you name this country on the map? No. Where's North Korea? And they point to Nebraska or something. Kamala Harris being dumb about geography, Kamala Harris being geographically impaired is really a reflection of the country, because a lot of Americans don't know anything about geography, and a lot of Americans are very uneducated when it comes to geopolitics, and people are quite dumb. And really, people pushing for civil war in this country is a reflection of, I'll be honest with you guys, it's a reflection of national stupidity. I'll be very frank. It's a reflection of national stupidity. And it's a reflection of people not really, either not researching the reality of civil war, not actually looking at real footage of civil wars that have happened within our own time, like in Syria, like in Sudan right now, like in South Sudan. And it's also just a reflection of so many people not letting reality sink into their heads and thinking that a civil war would just be like the film The Patriot with Mel Gibson. It's not going to be The Patriot and Mel Gibson, okay? It's going to be Syria on steroids. Oh, boy. But anyway, yeah, this whole election thing, I mean, people are talking about it right now. People are not even talking so much about the failed assassination attempt. That's how much our attention spans have been retarded. We're not really focusing that much. People are going to be focusing on this for a while. They're going to be focusing on this until the delegates officially choose someone. Once they officially choose someone, then they're going to be talking about the election, and then you're going to have a debate, and then there's going to be a whole bunch of memes made on that debate. If Kamala Harris has a debate with Donald Trump, my guess is that Trump is going to come out looking like the better interlocutor, the better debater. That's my belief because, like I said, I think Kamala Harris is not the best orator, and I think that Donald Trump is a much better speaker, much more charismatic. Plus, when you have a lot of people focusing on you in a good way, and when you have a lot of people looking at you as a hero, that's energy. That is energy. I'm not trying to sound like some new age guru guy, some Buddhist lunatic, but we as human beings, we have energy. We are imbibed with energy. We have energy. We have, what do you want to call it? The life force or the breath of God? We have energy within us. It's our life, right? The energy goes away, we're dead. We have energy, and we radiate the energy around us. I mean, have you ever noticed that you know when someone doesn't like you without them even saying a word to you? Have you guys ever experienced that? I've experienced that. I'm sure all of us have experienced that. We have experienced people not liking us without even saying a word to us. How do we know that? How do we know that? Because we just feel it. It's a vibe check, as some people on the internet say. It's total vibes. And so when people are looking up to you like a hero, you suck that energy right up. I mean, you suck that stuff up. Your body, your soul, suck it up, and you feel super confident. You feel super comfortable, super fluid. You can speak really well. You're super articulate. You are just on your game. You're in the zone. You are centered, totally exuberant, totally jubilant, totally just on fire. And I think Trump is really, really going to show that in a debate with whoever the Democrat nominee is going to be, and if there is going to be a debate. But here's another reason why I don't think that Kamala Harris could win. Here's another reason, and man, this is why I will not be able to run for president, because sometimes I really get trumped as I'm trying to articulate myself. I have never heard this point made online. In fact, I don't think I've ever heard this point made anywhere. So this may be the first time that this has ever been heard. But have you guys noticed that there is a huge... I'm sure all of you guys have noticed this, but I'm just going to say this rhetorically. Have you guys noticed that there is this huge phenomena online of people making videos against woke content? All right, it's everywhere. People making videos against woke movies and woke video games, woke shows, woke series, and how horrible these productions are and how terrible they are, and how if you go woke, you go broke. And if you guys notice that these videos garner millions upon millions of views, I've noticed this. For example, they talk about how they made the Lord of the Rings woke. They did this Lord of the Rings TV show, television show, HBO show, whatever, some garbage on Netflix. And they put a female character there, and she is this badass orc killer. She kills all the men. She's tougher than any man in Middle-earth. She's tougher than any man in the Shire. She's doing genocide on the Hobbit people. I don't really know. But there was this series on the Lord of the Rings, and a lot of people hated it because it was woke, right? I'm not gonna say supposedly, it was woke. That's what it was. It was woke. They got a African American elf, and they got a woman there, and she's killing all the orcs, whatever. She's a badass. She's a ninja, and they make it very obvious that they're woke. That I think is the biggest problem that people have. It's not that there are non-white characters or female characters. I don't think anyone has, generally speaking, ever had serious problems with non-white characters in movies, and I don't think anyone has really had any problems with female characters. I mean, there's so many female roles in films that we love. The problem that I think a lot of people have is when they make it very obvious that they're trying to go woke. So, for example, we're going to do a movie about Samson in the Bible, the biblical character Samson, but we're going to make Samson black, and we're going to get this NFL linebacker to play Samson. And yes, that History Channel actually did this years ago. It's very obvious that in that case, they're really trying to go woke, and they're making it very, very obvious that they are. And this is what really, really aggravates people. This talking down to way of doing things in film. Well, we're going to put this African-American character. We're going to get a black James Bond. What? Black James Bond? James Bond has always been an Englishman. No. We're going to get a black James Bond, and it's going to be really cool. And if you think that this is not in accordance to Mr. Broccoli's James Bond, then you're a racist. And this is what people get really angry about. This is what really angers and exasperates people. Well, if so many people get pissed off at woke movies and woke video games, what makes you think that people are just going to embrace Kamala Harris? Because look at what the media is saying. And I've seen this a number of times already. If Kamala Harris wins, she'll be the first African-American woman to be the president. She'll be the first female Jamaican Indian American woman to win the presidency. And it's just obvious woke garbage. It's woke nonsense. And so if so many people hate the woke movement, and they do, look at the whole Budweiser situation. They put some trans person on the can, and Budweiser stock went down 40%. And you know what? Budweiser said, Anheuser-Busch said, this is not going to happen. It was Bud Light, not Budweiser, but Anheuser-Busch said, okay, we're not doing this again. I remember years ago going to Target on Pride Month, and there were all these rainbows everywhere, just rainbows all over the place, I remember. This year I went to Target in Pride Month, no rainbows. Why? Because all those people who are in charge of Target, they had a little board meeting, and they said, listen, we can't do this bullshit anymore. So if so many people in America are against the woke stuff, woke video games, woke movies, what the hell makes you think that Kamala Harris could win? That's my opinion. The anti-woke phenomena in the United States bespeaks that Kamala Harris more than likely will not win. It presages Kamala Harris not winning, and that's if she actually becomes the nominee. And that's my opinion. That's it. Anyway, those are my thoughts on that. Hope you guys have enjoyed your Sunday or your Monday, whatever time it is. And that's it. Yeah, you guys just heard some theology. God bless.